crowd gasped as muddy water thundered across the valley, tearing through rows of luxury cabins. The Homeowners Association had built them without permission, on land that didn't belong to them. And the man they thought was powerless? He had just opened the dam gates to let nature take everything back. They mocked him when he warned them. They laughed when he pleaded for respect. But when the gates of the old dam opened, silence fell across the valley, broken only by the roar of water reclaiming what was stolen. For years, this lake had been his refuge, a quiet stretch of blue where the morning mist clung to the trees and the cries of loons echoed across still waters. It was more than land. It was memory. It was where he had learned to breathe again after the battlefield, where the ghosts of war finally softened in the embrace of nature. But to the Homeowners Association, it was profit. Without his permission, they carved roads through his woods, laid foundations on his soil, and built 139 vacation cabins along the shoreline. They sold the dream of luxury weekends, never mentioning the man who still owned the water that fed the valley. He was no stranger to loss. Once he had stood in deserts far from home, the ground trembling with distant fire. He had seen comrades fall and carried the weight of names etched in stone. When he returned, broken in body but steady in spirit, this lake became his sanctuary. He built the dam not for money but for healing, to control the flow of water, to create a place of stillness where his scars could mend. Now, as he watched strangers drink and laugh on decks built illegally over his lake, he felt something heavier than anger. It was betrayal. The town council turned a blind eye. Neighbors whispered but never spoke aloud. The very people who once saluted him at parades now stayed silent, unwilling to challenge the association's grip on power. They sent him letters, mocking his rights. They told him his lake was theirs now. Some even called him selfish for standing in the way of progress. Yet he said nothing. He walked the shoreline, his boots sinking in the damp earth, his silence speaking louder than their insults. One evening, a council member sneered to his face, "You're just one man. We're an association. You can't stop us." The veteran only lowered his gaze, whispering words meant only for himself. Strength is not in numbers. Strength is in silence and in timing. Behind the cabins, hidden from careless eyes, the old steel gates of the dam waited. They had been built strong, meant to last storms and floods. He had kept them oiled, ready, not out of malice but because he understood rivers have memories. Water remembers its path. On the day he chose, the sky was heavy with rain. The cabins buzzed with weekend tourists, music and chatter spilling into the valley. The association's leaders were celebrating their latest sales. None of them noticed the man standing by the gatehouse, his hand steady on the wheel. With a slow turn, the locks released. Water surged forward, gathering strength, a beast long held back. Within moments, the calm lake became a raging current. Cabins perched arrogantly at the edge of the water shuddered, walls splintering as the flood swallowed them whole. From the hillside, townsfolk gathered in stunned silence. No one cheered. No one moved. They simply watched as nature reclaimed what was hers, as arrogance drowned beneath the roar of truth. The veteran stood apart, face calm, eyes reflecting the torrent. And though he spoke barely above a whisper, the words carried like thunder. You cannot own what was never yours. You cannot chain the river. You cannot silence the land. By morning, the cabins were gone, swept downstream, reduced to debris. The lake stretched wide and free again, breathing like a wounded soul finally healed. In the days that followed, whispers turned to respect. People no longer saw just a quiet man, but a guardian. They spoke of his patience, his dignity, his unshakable resolve. And though the association tried to rebuild its power, the valley remembered that moment of silence turned to strength. He never asked for applause. He never sought revenge. All he wanted was balance, between man and nature, between arrogance and humility, between silence and justice. And in the end, he proved a truth worth remembering. The strongest voices are not always heard in words. Sometimes, they are spoken in the silence that cannot be ignored. So the question lingers for all who hear his story. When faced with injustice, would you have the courage to stay silent until the moment silence becomes unstoppable?